Previously on a ducking wrestling podcast.
Raven rules.
Well, I mean, it's.
I don't think that was his saying, but all right.
No? Have a good
Well,
time.
hell, he's from he's the part of the ninja.
It's a nice day. It's a nice day.
Wait,
I fucked it up.
Which, by the way,
In the 90s, I was a Nitro girl.
Bray Wyatt was chaos, to quote the GOAT, John Cena. Welcome, everybody, to the April recording of a Ducking Wrestling podcast. We're calling an audible this week, and we are covering the amazing documentary, Becoming Immortal, Bray Wyatt. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to keep it lighthearted. We're going to keep it serious. We're going to do what we do. As always, I got my co-hosts here with me. We got Too Hard, Too Fast, George down here at the power bottom position. And we got our man, that chocolate thunder, Lathan, sitting over there. I don't know which side. You're on one of the sides. That side over there. There. There we go. Fellas, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, Art? How's it going, George? It's another night in paradise. Woke up alive, very excited to do this podcast and rock and roll, man.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling huskus. Let's go.
Yeah. I got a little Uncle Rowdy over here.
I'm not fat. I'm just huskus.
You should have come on with just your face covered in chocolate and been like, what?
You little pig boy.
Well, yeah, we decided to call an audible. We were gonna cover Bash at the Beach 2000. Figured we'd save that for May, more of the summer style theme. So we're gonna cover this. We were all big Bray Wyatt fans. I know I was from the very beginning, and it was we losing him, especially because my daughter loved The Fiend, weirdly enough. But we talked about this in our group chat. Like, we try to keep things light, we try to keep things funny, make jokes about stuff. And was this going to be something that we could cover and have a good discussion on? And we decided yes. So here we are doing it. Fellas, give me your quick thoughts of Bray Wyatt.
I did not like Bray Wyatt from the beginning. I kind of remember the huskus character vaguely. But I remember him. But initially, I did not like Bray Wyatt. I was kind of thinking it was like a cop-out move, like it wasn't going to last, it wasn't going to be a thing. But then it grew on me quick.
So did you remember him in NXT as Husky Harris?
I remember not. I don't remember him as like an actual like wrestling and his matches and his storylines. I just remember his face. I was like, this is like, I remember this guy from somewhere. And then like when I saw old footage, I was like, oh yeah. But that's about it.
Gotcha. What about you, Lathan? You did you start out as a Husky Harris fan?
I was never a Husky Harris fan. Let's be clear. I won't mince words. I remember there's a gap of time because like at the time I remember them doing NXT, like the original version with the pros and the rookies. And I remember how like there was something about him, like I kind of enjoyed his work in the ring and like some of the way he came across in his promos, but like it didn't seem like him fully. It seemed like another carbon copy of like create a wrestler and like attach some acknowledgement to like his family. It's like, oh, you should like him in some way, shape, or form because he is the son of or the nephew of. But Like I remember him being there for a moment, and he was cool for the moment in the faction of the Nexus because they were interesting in themselves, right? Like as a team, as a faction, especially with CM Punk at the helm, leading them at the time. And then he just kind of went away. And then they revamped NXT. And then as a character, he got revamped through NXT. And it was a time that I didn't watch NXT because I wasn't paying attention to it that well. Like, it was just another developmental. At the time, it was known for just being developmental. And like, for me, I didn't want to. It's not that I necessarily didn't want to watch it, but I didn't have time to watch it or make time to watch it. But I had friends that kept on telling me about like, this Bray Wyatt character that's coming out and stuff, and so I kind of got into him when he got to the main roster, and then like you kind of like realize, oh, that is Husky Harris. Damn, that boy got thick and dirty.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, during that time, NXT, I think this was pre WWE Network, so NXT wasn't on where it was everybody could watch it. I think it was a very select area where you could watch that version of NXT, because it wasn't until Bo Dallas was champion that it became more of like the network, where it was on the network, which was later in life. And
But I remember like the group would come in and attack people, right? Like with what's his name, the one that commentates now? They were called Nexus.
Wade Barrett. Yeah, we'll get to that. Real quick before I forget, this week's jersey, rocking an XFL San Antonio Brahmas jersey I got last year when it was 30% off.
Before they went bankrupt.
Before the merger, because it still got the boom XFL. That's what's up. So yeah, we start out the documentary, and right off the bat, man, we have one of the greatest of all time narrating, which caught me a little off guard. And whenever they first talked about that the Undertaker was gonna be the narrator for the documentary, I was kind of like, why? Why is he doing it? But then as it progresses, you find out and you figure out why. So I know we're all Undertaker fans. What'd y'all think of his narration for this documentary?
I thought it was gonna be really good right off the bat. I was like, "Ooh, Undertaker!" But honestly, I kind of forgot it was the Undertaker narrating after a while. Like I was like into the story, so I was no longer thinking it was the Undertaker narrating.
Yeah, this was more. When I first heard that it was announced that it was going to be Undertaker, like it made me want to listen to it more or watch it more, just to see his take, how he was narration, how he would come off. And it's fitting. I mean, like it was Bray Wyatt was meant to be like a kind of like the next generation variation of like an Undertaker Mystique type of figure. So I don't think anybody else really could have done it as good or as beneficial to give it the full weight that it needed. So it was a perfect person to do it. Like the only other person I would think that may have been better was just Bo Dallas himself, but like the Undertaker has a different like diction to his voice that gave it a real good tone. The serious tone that it needed to have. I guess I should say. Yeah.
Honestly, I agree with that. With the Undertaker narration, when it first got announced that they were doing it, I mean, my first thought was like, well, they have to have Taylor Bo Dallas do the narration, but then he's featured so much in it that it wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worked out. It did really good, but they start off early in Bray Wyatt's life. Windham Rotunda, being the grandson of the legendary Blackjack Mulligan, the nephew of Barry and Kendall Windham, and the son of Mr. IRS, Mike Rotunda. It's really weird, like any of these documentaries, whether it's Dark Side of the Ring or stuff like this, it always starts with like the wrestler and the sister of a wrestler. Like there's just something that like attracts them to each other, that like it always kind of creates that chemistry there. And I loved it. I thought it was really great that they kind of talk about Mike Rotunda and his wife, and like 6 months into their relationship they're getting married, and now they've been married for over 40 years. Like I think that's so rare in pro wrestling for that kind of relationship to last, that I thought it was cool that they mentioned that.
Especially in that day and age, because like it was a whole different time on the road. But I mean, it was cool because I think they made mention Darren that like she would be on the road with them from time to time, which is another like odd thing to do, as given the time frame or the timeline, or the day of how they interacted wrestling wise on the road. So it was cool. Like it was good to see that warm family dynamic that you always see throughout the documentary as you watch it. Like this is a family that loved, and they loved each other hard. Like it's a true family bonding experience that they go through.
George, ¿qué pasó?
I'm trying to think if I had any. Like I liked knowing, I guess, the background, like how like I don't know. It's weird to say, but for Bray to be born, but like where his roots came from. Yeah, how did that make it happen?
Chicka wicka wow.
But I was like, I think I was more, as I started the documentary, I wanted to know more about Bray Wyatt versus his family. Um, like if he was, I guess I was interested in like backstage stuff, like how he really was and things like that. I was hoping for that. So I didn't grab on too much at the beginning. Like I was just ready for like, let's go, let's go, let's go. But if it wasn't for like WrestleMania announcing or WWE announcing that at WrestleMania they were gonna induct the uncle and the dad, I would have not even known, who they were.
Yeah, and that's a great kind of leeway into my next note on here. So they show a clip of the US Express on their way out to the ring at WrestleMania 1. 100% honesty, I've never watched WrestleMania 1 from start to finish. So that'll be something that we'll have to do, and we will do at some point. But they're wearing tag team belts, and were they WWF Tag Team Champions at the time, or was this one of those where they brought in? Because I know early on they would bring in kind of other champions from other promotions while they were kind of building their roster and everything. So I was wondering if Lathan, if you knew if they were the tag team champions at the time.
Just when they were. They didn't have. I don't think they had a long run with the belts, but yeah, and they actually lost them to Nikolai Volkov and Iron Sheik at WrestleMania 1.
Oh,
yeah.
Question answered.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you're welcome.
There we go. That's what we got Lathan for. He's our Encyclopedia Blacktanica.
Oh shit!
That was a good one.
That is a t-shirt on WrestlingTees.com.
Just a picture of Lathan dressed up like Lanny Poffo.
Yeah.
Encyclopedia Blacktanica.
Instead of having a book, I'm gonna have a laptop in front of me, just clicking away.
Oh man. But I one thing I loved was they start going into the stuff that Windham Rotunda loved as a kid, right? And I'm sitting there going, oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters, Goosebumps. Like I still have a giant collection of Goosebumps books. It's probably like that. Like it's thick. That boy thick. So I loved all that about being able to like repeat Beetlejuice, being able to do all that. Like
What
I
do you think?
connected with
What do you think that says about you and Rotunda?
that we're kindred spirits.
that
That we would have been besties.
well, because I liked those things, but I did not love those things. Like I would read the books, I would watch, Are You Afraid of the Dark or whatever, like that kind of stuff. But I did not like invest myself too much into them, other than, oh, I want to get freaked out a little bit. But
Yeah,
you know,
I was all about all that stuff. And even now as an adult, as they're re-releasing toys, I mean, I'm like going out of my way to recollect toys as a kid that I had, just because I love that 90s like nostalgia. And it kind of makes me mad because like this toy right here, I have it in my garage in a box somewhere, but they re-release it and I'm like, ooh, I got adult money now, I can buy it. What about you, Latham? Were you a Ghostbusters, Beetlejuice, etc. kid?
Oh, dude, come on now. We're children of the '90s. What? As a matter of fact, I was just talking about. Okay, so you remember? I know you remember this. The high C ecto coolers. So not drop. So that's wait. Is that in your fridge? And I just overlooked it when I was at your house the other day.
No, it's in my front room because it's from when they re-released Ecto Cooler for, I want to say, the girls uh Ghostbusters movie. Its best by date is, let's see.
Don't care. I'm gonna drink it next time I'm at your house. Do not give a fuck.
Yeah, I know we looked at it and Allison was like, "Get it out of my fridge." So now it just sits in my front room.
Oh, it'll be out of your front room next time I come to the house.
Oh, 27 March 6th of 17. Best consumed by.
Yeah, it's well
it's
aged
just
at this
fermented.
point.
Yeah, now you just get drunk on it.
Oh man, delicious and nutritious.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, like no, I remember. It's the same things. It's Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark? It's all of the horrors that they allowed us to enjoy as a kid. And I had all the volumes because when the big fair came to town, best believe I had $20. I'll find somewhere, get all the books. And so they were good to reread over and over. I'm mad that I didn't keep them as much as I should have back then in hindsight, because Junior would have absolutely loved reading them. So, but I found out Are You Afraid of the Dark, as a side note, is on Paramount Plus. So, yep, the whole Nickelodeon catalog.
No,
we
could go on with that for forever. But yeah, he was very much, it seems like a baby of the 80s, a kid of the 90s, like we were. So it was cool to see that and kind of connect with it, and knowing, like, I think that was one of the biggest things, like takeaways from this documentary, was just how really kind of, he was such a larger than life character, but he was so just a normal guy who was just there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing that I took away the most too, that like it really kind of like brought me to, like, I guess, more hit home as far as his death versus, like, we've all seen, we've experienced wrestlers' death, right? We've been through Eddie, name redacted, a few other wrestlers. Like we've been through those mourning processes, but I think the more that it was different with this one was not only that he was still actively on the roster, like we were literally at his last big pay-per-view. Although I was in a beer line because it took forever, but we were there to watch his last match. But the other thing that was kind of crazy was that like he's our age. Like this came out of nowhere. It was unexpected, and like this dude was all about like 2 years, 3 years younger than us, and like it was kind of crazy how it was just like he had this family, and like, I guess it was more relative that way because like I don't see myself like having to end up dying like that, like and then my family's still here type of situation. You mostly hear about most of these wrestlers, they're in their later years, they're in their like 40s, 50s, lived the life, lived as being parents, lived as being an entertainer. He was still the entertainer. He was still the dad raising his kids and rearing his kids and stuff. So it kind of hit a little different watching the documentary and seeing it this way, especially when they announced his death in the first place. I was kind of just in a weird space for a couple of days afterwards.
Yeah, I want to get to that, later on, at that point in the documentary. We're still at this point in the documentary, we're still getting introduced to people. So we meet Taylor and Micah, his younger brother, younger sister. It's so crazy, like how much they look alike. And you see it in Bray, like you see it in Windham's eyes. They have kind of the almond eyes, all three of them do. But I don't know, Bray to me looks so much different than like Micah and Taylor. You look at them and like, oh yeah, they're siblings. But if you put all three of them together, it's a little bit more like, one of these things is not like the others.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, you can see they all have their own individual personalities. And it plays through as like you see their development even as wrestlers. Like, I didn't realize they had a younger sister the whole time, but like even she sounds like she has her own little personality that kind of peeks through as far as the children's dynamics. So that was kind of interesting to see like them on that side of life and how it shows a piece of the way they grew up and evolved in themselves.
What do you think, George, about the siblings?
I didn't know they had a sister, but and I initially, well, obviously now and like nowadays, I knew that they were brothers, but I think when they were both still in the same, they were both in WWE. I I did not know they were brothers for a good while. Uh, but I was a big fan of Bo Dallas. Like I really wanted him to stick with it and somebody to do something with him because I was just a fan of him. Like I don't know what it was, but I was like I wanted him to succeed and stay on. Um, but yeah, like to me they don't. I can't even picture the sister's face right now, but to me they don't really look alike at all.
Well, she was pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's very pretty, very pretty.
Yeah.
I like, it was really interesting to see his kind of evolution in sports, to be the wrestler and a heavyweight champion. I think they said the state heavyweight champion in high school, and be a football player and play, Division II, and then go play for Troy, where DeMarcus Ware was out of. I thought that was cool, but then, kind of that story where it's like, well, he got there and then he just kind of worked his way down the depth chart. You talk about like things happening for a reason, and maybe somewhere in the multiverse in some other world, he was a starter and he's a NFL superstar rather than the guy that we all loved in the ring.
What could have been. Oh well.
Travis. Um, Yeah, and then so we start getting into kind of where he's starting to move towards wrestling. So we get the story that Bo Dallas tells of, you know, him wanting to follow in Windham's footsteps, and he goes to become a wrestler, and he's going into high school, and he's going for a heavyweight championship, and then he gets hurt. And he talks about, like, you know, I got home and all I was worried about was disappointing my brother, and like Bray's there and he gives him a hug and says, like, none of this shit matters. You know, and it kind of brings you back. You know, you think about, like, all of us, we all played sports in high school and everything. Well, I think George did. Um you know, I played baseball, football, and you know, you think about, like, where your mindset is at that time, where everything going on in that time is like the most important thing. And to have where he's talking about where, you know, his big brother was there to kind of pull him back out of that heartbreak, that, you know, because I think he said he was injured, he didn't even get to compete, and to get
Yeah.
that hug and be like, none of this shit matters. It's like, damn, like, I wish somebody would have done that to me when I was
I don't
all
think I would have
mad
been
about,
taking
you know,
if they told it to me like that. I'm like, it totally matters. What you mean?
you know, in hindsight, like, it doesn't matter. Like, that shit doesn't matter. And
It
for him
doesn't.
to do that, I thought it was cool.
Yeah,
But
not definitely.
does it only not matter because you have it?
I don't
For
think so. I
someone that
think,
doesn't get it, it's always gonna be like, I never got it.
yeah, but really, I mean, sitting at 30, you know, middle age, 30 something, late 30s, like, and you look
Hey,
back.
some of us peak in high school.
Look, just because you were peeking in the girls' locker room doesn't mean you peaked.
Ah,
I mean, that's a
peekaboo.
different kind of peaked.
Not just the girls.
Oh, yowza.
And that's when it kicked in. All right. All right. So we go into you know, Bray is at Troy, not really enjoying it, getting minimal playing time. Taylor Rotunda has now joined FCW, like the old FCW developmental territory. He says, you know, Bray came down and watched a match and was immediately like, I'm not going back to school. I want to do this. And, you know, that immediate, like, click of how passionate, like, and how much that meant to him, I thought was cool. And you think about, like, damn, how many people came out of that FCW that evolved to NXT?
Mm.
You know, like, they talk about Ohio Valley being a superstar factory when you have Cena, Orton, Lesnar, Batista, all of these guys, Shelton Benjamin, all these guys who came out of there. But damn, how many people came out of FCW / NXT in those early years?
Yeah, if you go look now, they're probably most of them are in AEW, but I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No, seriously, but all jokes aside, I mean, they had a strong class in FCW, like with Dusty running it, and Jim Cornette running it for a little bit. Like, man, they had some geniuses behind building their characters, and like you could tell who got it. When they got to talk to, like, when they showed the behind the scenes promos that they had to do, and like the character development they had to go through, like they worked hard to hone their craft and be as original as they were allowed to be, especially under the learning tree of Jim Cornette and Dusty Rhodes like that, man. And it was cool to see, it was cool to hear Dusty's voice in the back.
Yeah.
Where they're showing some of the old promos vignettes that they had to go through and stuff.
So they show Taylor Rotunda, aka Bodell. We're gonna go back and forth with these names. There's not a consistency. If you're watching or listening to this podcast, you know who we're talking about. So we're gonna
He's
bounce
always gonna be Bo Dallas to me.
because
It
you
puts the lotions on the skin.
Bo Howdy.
but it was weird. I thought whenever they started showing them tagging together, they called them the Rotundo brothers, Bo and Duke Rotundo. Like,
yeah, I thought there was a glitch in the microphone there for a second, like it's me talking at the end of a podcast. But I was like, Rotundo. I was like, okay, I mean they kept it as close as they wanted to, but also gave like their own little name. And I was like, this sounds almost like the makings of a young Rocky Maivia, where they just kind of like played with the last names and stuff, as opposed to just giving them a whole new identity. So, but it was interesting.
It really fucked me up because it made me like question my sanity. Whereas, like, wait, is this one of those?
I've been saying it the whole time.
Right, that's what I thought. I'm like, they said it, and I'm like, wait, is this like a Mandela effect? Like, I always thought it was Rotunda, and it's actually Rotundo. Like, holy shit! Wait a minute, and then I actually had to go look it up, and I'm like, oh, okay, they changed it just enough to be okay. It's not. I'm not losing my mind. Like, okay, got it.
Why would they change it, or why would they do Rotundo versus Rotunda?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The only thing I can figure is that they didn't want it that connected to the dad. It's almost like one of those, like, okay, we know who you are, but we need you to earn this on your own without the name. And that's, I mean,
That's too close.
Yeah, that's a complete like guess. I don't know. I don't know why.
It's like if Dominic Mysterio was like, I'm not gonna be Rey Mysterio, I'm gonna be Jay Mysterio.
my name is
Mysteria.
Dominic. Yeah, Dominic Mysteria.
Mysterious.
If I was a betting man, it was probably because they wanted to license the name. You know how that was Vince McMahon's thing, right? Was always giving to everybody else a different name so he can have the IP rights to it and trademark it. So I don't care what your last name is. Like, we're going to trademark this name, so you can't go use it on the independent circuit. So
yeah, that's a fair point. That actually would make sense. I wonder if we can find us a Rotundo Brothers T-shirt out there on eBay somewhere.
I'm gonna go shop ProWrestlingTees.com real quick.
Oh, but I actually have to say this verbatim because I wrote this down. It says, fuck, I hated Husky Harris. And let me just clarify. So the character I hated. I really enjoyed his in-ring work, and he had kind of a unique character. And I don't know if y'all remember this. This was on I think it was season 2 of NXT. Because season 1, they became the Nexus. Season 2, he had his moniker was like the army tank with a Ferrari engine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like that, and it made sense because he was damn quick in the ring. He was fast.
Oh, you definitely see his athleticism shine through. Like, that's what, and it made for a good character, but we all knew that, like, this is like I was saying earlier, this is a creative wrestler. Like, the black trunks, the boots. So I remember his boots specifically after they had mentioned their his dad and Barry Windham. I was like, oh, I get the cowboy boots now.
Yep.
Okay. Like, small little Easter eggs to make them, like, relative to what their old relation is. but new versions of them. And I'm like, this is cookie cutter, and it'll play out horribly. But that sucks because it takes away from like him as a athlete and as a wrestler, as an entertainer, because like they didn't really give him any TV time or like mic time at the time for promos. He was just like another big enforcer in the background for NXT or for the Nexus at the time.
Who was his pro? It was somebody else who was a second. Cody Rhodes.
Yeah,
that's right. I was like, it was somebody who was a second generation guy as well. George, any thoughts on Husky Harris?
No, like I said, I don't really remember his work. I remember his face. So I knew I saw him here and there, but not like any of his work as one of the Huskies.
Realistically, there's only 2 times I really remember Husky Harris. There was one time where he was introduced as part of the new Nexus. And then the other times when he was becoming a whipping boy in the new Nexus. And that was the only 2 times I really remember being on TV back then.
Yeah, him and he and Curtis Axel at that point, Michael McGillicuddy, fucking worst name. That by far, I don't know what's worse, Husky Harris or Michael McGillicuddy.
That one, because most people probably wouldn't be able to say it.
Oh, God.
Michael McGillicuddy.
Michael McGillicuddy. Well, that gives us a good moment to take our first break before we start getting into the development and where the actual Bray Wyatt character starts to develop. That's a good little end point. So we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with you.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome to Too Hard, Too Fast.
Too hard, too fast.
Too hard, too fast.
Too hard, too fast.
Welcome to Too Hard, Too Fast.
Welcome back. Too hard, too fast. Where we go off the rails, and George has to worry about it. So here we go.
Find Too Hard, Too Fast podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Welcome back, everybody, as we here at a Ducking Wrestling podcast pay tribute to the one and only, the great Windham Rotunda Bray Wyatt, reviewing the Becoming Immortal documentary. So we get past the Husky Harris era, thankfully. Like we were talking about, I was a big fan of the wrestler, not the character. So when he went away, it was really kind of before the dirt sheets got super into just every single person who gets moved down to NXT or up and everything. So he kind of went away without really kind of any big fanfare. So in the documentary, we get him really excited. He's really excited about being kind of demoted back to NXT, and he starts working on this new character. It's been for years kind of rumored that this character was based off of a 90s character named Waylon Mercy. Waylon Mercy, if you don't know who that is, go and look it up, YouTube it. He was a very unique character. And from a lot of podcasts and stuff, they talk about Waylon Mercy, that the man himself, and I don't remember who he is, but he was a big name in like the 80s, right, Lathan?
Yeah, I wasn't too familiar with him until they started making reference to how he drew from his from the idea of Waylon Mercy, and that he actually even went out to ask for permission to use some like his mannerisms and stuff going into his promos. And I thought that was kind of cool that he was able to reach out to him and like actually give credit where credit was due, right? Like where you draw your true inspiration from. But yeah, I wasn't too aware of him as far as like his character at all. but I knew they had made reference to it, but I wasn't a fan, or I'm not a fan, but just didn't really pay attention to him back then. If I did see him, but man, he looked kind of crazy.
Yeah. So the man who portrayed Waylon Mercy, George, this is for you, so we can educate you a little bit. Dan Spivey.
I was just about to Google a picture, by the way.
Dan Spivey was a big name, I believe, in the original Florida Championship Wrestling that was run by the Briscoes, and he had a big rivalry with Dusty Rhodes, if I'm remembering correctly. And I know during the Something to Wrestle podcast with Bruce Pritchard, he talks about Waylon Mercy and about how the character was so good and so ahead of its time, but the man himself, Dan Spivey, at that point was up in age, and those guys didn't age the same way that they do now. I mean, now you've got AJ Styles, who's in his 40s, who's at the top of his game. Those guys back then, they hit like 35 and they were done. Like their knees were shot, their backs, all of that stuff. But the character itself was, the character of Waylon Mercy was way ahead of its time. So if you have the time, go check it out. Go look at some of his promo stuff, and you'll see a lot of the Bray Wyatt character in him.
And Art, just real quick, it was 1995.
There you go. 1995. Yeah. So really...
No, 1995.
Right, 1995. That's what I said.
Oh, they said 85. I'm
sorry.
No,
you couldn't... Sorry, you couldn't understand through my accent.
It was 95.
95.
95ers.
95. So his and that was really kind of the time they were starting to move towards that new generation where the older guys were kind of being pushed out. He was a very unique character. I do remember a lot of his stuff, but his in-ring was very, very limited. So we start seeing Bray Wyatt, and they start showing, his promos and stuff, and his early on kind of inception. Did y'all catch that he's sitting there like smoking?
No.
In these promos,
I didn't even pay attention to it.
In these promos, he's got like a cigarette.
I saw the cigarette, but was it actually lit?
Yeah.
I thought it was a fake thing, like a popsicle stick or something. Not a popsicle stick, but like a paleta stick, lollipop.
There we go. Come on,
yeah, I knew if I threw out a few words, I would get it.
Lollipop. No, I think there's a couple of points where like he takes a drag off of it and like exhales. I'm like, all right, damn. It's very like the character in itself. It's very weird. It almost seems like it would make more sense, like, for him to be sitting in the rocking chair with, like, a cigar. But, nevertheless, Bray Wyatt smoking a cigarette, doing a promo. Good stuff.
Are we sure it's a cigarette and not just wacky tobacco?
Kids don't smoke. Well, so the Bray Wyatt character starts developing, and he wants to bring in somebody else. He wants to have like the family, which I think his character kind of lends to that. I mean, this backwoods swamp preacher, it makes sense. I don't think they could have picked anybody better than John Huber, aka Luke Harper. I think that dude, I mean, there was nobody else who could have fit that bill more perfect, with the scraggly beard, the wife beater with the sweat down the front, the baggy like work jeans. Like, as much as I think John Huber was very underutilized in the WWE, that character with Bray Wyatt fucking Mwah. Beautiful.
Yeah. And then with Erick Rowan on the other side, it was a perfect contrast between them all. And it was cool to see how they came up with, or at least utilize the idea of giving Erick Rowan a mask and just like letting them figure out how to put the pieces together and coming up with the sheep mask out of all the other masks and stuff. Yeah, no, this had I like that they gave them the creativity and allowed them to utilize it as best they can without putting their corporate fingers all over it, if you will. And like it turned out to be really awesome as it came around. Like I said, I don't remember much of them and watching them in NXT at the time, given the constrictions on how they broadcast. But when they did show the old clips, I was like, okay, I can see like this isn't something they just came to terms with on TV. Like when they put together the Shield and brought them to TV, this was like already in the making, and now we're getting a really cool main event version of, or a main attraction version of them on TV.
I think no what's that word? Mark. I was the perfect mark for this for Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper and the whole faction, I guess. Because I honestly thought that Luke Harper was that nasty, doesn't shower type of person. Like I was like, and so I never. I guess I wanted to like them, but I kind of didn't because I felt like this is him and it's not gonna last. Like this is Luke Harper. He's and I hate to talk about him like that right now, but yeah, that's what I like. I was totally believing it. I was like, this guy's dirty. Sucio.
They all
That's
dirty.
real. That's real sweat.
These guys got that cochino. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when they first started showing the vignettes, man, they were so good. I mean, the Bray Wyatt voiceover where it's like, hey, you want to see something really scary? And then it goes into like the bass, the down, like going into
I
it.
thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was so cool at that time that a friend of mine, she's a huge like horror movie fan, and I thought it was so cool. She didn't watch wrestling at all. That like I sent it to her, and I'm like, "Oh, you got to check this shit out. This is Hollywood horror making done right. Like this is terrifying." And just show it like that end. I still have it in my brain, like the end picture where it shows Harper standing in the back. You have Rowan just lean into the camera and tilt his head, and it goes, run. And then it cuts. Like they did these so well. And it kind of goes back at this time, Triple H had taken over as creative in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
So you see fucking Husky Harris under the Vince McMahon control to Triple H now in charge and just letting the creative juices just go all over everybody's faces.
No Diddy.
No Diddy.
It's perfect. It works. Yeah, no, definitely. And it's one of those cool things where like you could see this is the true appreciation I have for Triple H as creative, right? Like he has a really great creative brain for the business. In the way that he's helping these younger guys develop and build their characters and making them have their own worlds. Like even in that documentary, he was like, "Oh, okay, Husky Harris sucked," and he had to talk Vince McMahon to letting them have him back in the NXT to see how they could work with him even more because you can see the potential. And all these kids, like all these wrestlers have potential. It's just like how do we tap into them to make them an actual character and stuff. And Triple H, like to his credit, has a really good mind for not just focusing on now, but also building for the future, knowing that you have to keep on building more superstars to keep the machine running better. And to a sense, we had it at WrestleMania 40, like as far as the way that everything it was built character wise, like not going off on a complete tangent, but like it's going, it's basically a fruition of like his full creative control. And it worked out really well when it came to Bray Wyatt, especially to allow them to still have their freedoms too, to create the way that create the universes they wanted to. It was awesome. Needless to say, though, looking back, I would say that like if you could take any one of the factions from that FCW like NXT original time frame and place them in a proper day and age, the Wyatt family, absolutely. You could put them on AEW or WWE, and they would fucking run over everything in an absolute fashion. Like it was in a sense they were ahead of their time, but at the same time, like they kind of they were there for the platform for the characters to become more than what they are. And so now, remember Johnny Huber in a different light. We remember Bray Wyatt in a different light. We still get to enjoy, to a certain extent, Erick Rowan for now. So, but like, they had talent that could eventually move on past itself.
Yeah. What'd you think of? So what, George? What'd you think about Erick Rowan? So you talked a little bit about Luke Harper, and then Rowan joined. What'd you think?
I wasn't much attached to Erick Rowan because at first I felt like he was just like the muscle to look tough, but didn't get involved much, or was just like beating people up. But I guess maybe the mask made him detached to me. Like it looked cool on camera, but I couldn't like grab onto the character, and I wanted to grab on. Eventually I ended up liking. I feel like that's most of my. I feel like that's all. Like, what do you think about Stone Cold? Eventually, I used to like him. I started liking him. I'm very jaded to think that somebody new that's coming. I don't want to get attached yet. I'm one of those. Like I don't want to get attached because you're probably not gonna last.
You don't want to get your heart broken.
Yeah, Bo Dallas. I got attached too quick.
You gotta believe.
Oh yeah, you were truly a believer.
I was on the B team, baby. But yeah, I think that's where all my story, most of my stories and wrestlers, especially new, like they come in and starting to build a character. Like I'm not getting attached. I'm not getting invested until there's some time.
I get that. I mean, and you're right. I think we're in a different era now where we can get a little bit more attached from the get-go. But yeah, you're 100% right. You'd have people come in and it's like, oh man, this guy's awesome. He's this and that, and then boom, he's gone. So Jinder Mahal. Yeah, so I get that. What man? So we get into them going into Bray Wyatt starting to feud with big names, right? So we get to WrestleMania 30, which we covered in our last episode. So go check the archives for that one. And you know what? I'm gonna say it again, man. Cena winning at that WrestleMania was the wrong decision.
Yeah, definitely.
What's really cool though, and tell me if I'm off base here. Nobody else has had the kind of turnaround that Windham Rotunda did. So in 4 years, we went from Husky Harris to Bray Wyatt versus John Cena at WrestleMania. Who has had that kind of a turnaround changing characters?
Yeah, no, it's
The Miz.
He's always been the Miz, though.
Okay, I guess he didn't change. What? I don't know. I want to say from like when he was on Tough Enough, like the character was still very much Mizanin from the real world, and just trying to be a wrestler. Oh, be a wrestler, yeah.
How did he sound?
I don't know. That's what I don't know why I picture that, but and I may be misremembering, but I feel like he doesn't win, and there goes the MTV guy that thought he was gonna be a wrestler, and then all of a sudden, like the Miz.
I mean, I'll give you that, but again, I think going from the Miz, all he did was amplify his character more. You go from Husky Harris to Bray Wyatt. I mean, that's a whole 180 turnaround from the type of character you are, and to go from being a member of the whipping boy of the Nexus to WrestleMania with
Yeah.
John Cena, to getting your own
yeah,
band, band playing your entrance at WrestleMania in 4 years.
yeah. No, I mean, you could clearly see he worked hard to make sure that he put something forward that made you still get attention, or at least backstage creatively. Um, and to have the stamp of approval from John Cena to even go out there and do the match in the first place. Because you could, I assume, but we pretty much can know that like if John Cena don't want to do it, John Cena ain't gonna do it. So for John Cena to want to work with him, like says a lot about how he saw the vision of the character going too. So it was pretty awesome.
What do
Yeah,
you think would have happened if he would have won?
Almost exactly everything else that happened, anyways. Like they kind of would have like played it up for maybe a couple more weeks, and then they would have found a way to storyline wise, like kind of put it back in the past, and then we end up the way we ended up with them storyline wise, anyways. But still to have the win, I think in the bigger picture, still have the win over John Cena at WrestleMania is the bigger stamp of approval that we were looking for. Like,
when you look back though, you think about his first 3 WrestleManias. He faced John Cena, The Undertaker, and Randy Orton. Like that's a pretty damn good like lineup. I mean, he lost to all of them, but I mean that's a pretty damn good lineup. So we end the movement of the documentary. You know, they're kind of going through that with his character. They get to a point where they start talking about how Bray is getting a little disconnected, you know, from everything. He wins the WWE Championship, which was 100% deserved at that point. I mean, putting the title on him was something I think the title elevated him to that main event status. But then, I mean, I think it's like a month later at WrestleMania against Randy Orton, he loses it. And this is around the time where we've already introduced Braun Strowman has come in. He was the black sheep, but now he's kind of on his own. You've got Luke Harper and Erick Rowan are now the Bludgeon Brothers, and you've got Bray kind of out there in the ether, not really doing much. What I mean, I understand why they skipped it, but I feel like it almost does a disservice. They completely skipped the leader of worlds part of Bray's career.
I noticed that too. I mean, can you talk about Matt Hardy?
I would think so. I mean, you've got all this footage of them and everything. I would think that, I mean, that was a pretty big, it seems, I mean, didn't they show Matt Hardy at his funeral?
Yeah, but that's not him working. I think there's a strong difference between the two. Like, I mean, sure, like the leader of worlds happened, and there's actually a couple other pieces in here where it kind of just like kind of trails off. Not trails off, but they don't talk about it. We already knew it happened, but they don't talk about it in the midst of the story. But I would assume that would probably be a legal thing that they couldn't do since like Matt Hardy is still I guess Matt Hardy, and he works for AEW. Like they didn't really show anybody else that is a wrestler that works for AEW that's also in this documentary.
Yeah, but I really feel like that could have been something that if it's a legal issue, right? You go to AEW and you say, hey, we're doing a documentary, because AEW paid tribute to him using his real name, and they did like a 10-bell salute to Windham Rotunda. So I feel like that's kind of one of those moments where you say, hey, we're going to use footage of Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, while he was doing his Deleter of Worlds gimmick with him, or at least address it, because they didn't even do that, how he was a tag team champion. They completely skipped over all that. And I mean, I think that's almost a disservice to Bray Wyatt's legacy, that they don't even talk about him being a tag team champion with Matt Hardy.
But it is something, because I forgot that he was, and since they didn't mention that, I'm learning about it for the first time here.
Yeah, but no, I think they literally came back to this legal issue, and to be fair, when they put like, from what it sounds like, when it comes to production and stuff, this is in the time frame between Tony Khan being extra petty in regards to anything WWE related, and vice versa. So I don't think realistically WWE would have reached out to ask for permission to use the Matt Hardy IP to show off this footage, and I don't think AEW would have given it to him anyways. So it's just one of those things. Sort of like when we play 2K24, and we've talked about like there's faces redacted as we go through like showcases and stuff. They only blur them out so they don't legally have to pay them royalties for their usage and likeness. You know?
Yeah, maybe that may be more the reason that they didn't do it, instead of it being a legal reason, was that because Matt and Jeff don't work for WWE, they would have to pay them X amount of dollars for royalties. Okay. I get that. And maybe they tried and they said no. I don't know.
Keep in mind, people, we're all just speculating here.
Exactly. Yeah. None of us, other than Lathan being friends with Mark Calloway, have any kind of, and George being friends with CM Punk. Do we have any kind of insider knowledge or anything? This is us purely speculating, unless Lathan says, hey, this is what Mark Calloway told me. So
we're all just spitballing here.
Yeah.
Snowballing. Eskimo brethren.
Or as
I'm pretty sure Tony Khan said, no, we're making a documentary.
I was going to cut in there and say, or as George likes to say, ball spitting. That was the weirdest laugh ever. So we start progressing, and we get to
I start digressing.
we start diarrheaing, and we get to Bray Wyatt getting to the point, and I think he got sent home and said like creative has nothing for him. And so we get him starting to he knows, he kind of sees the writing on the wall. To quote the Jeff Hardy entrance music, he starts seeing that something has to change, just like George's screen just changed with him gone. So he gets a hold of a friend of his who dude's gonna be a fucking snack.
Fucking fat ass.
Audio listeners, go watch the YouTube because that was a Rumble. That was pretty damn funny. So he starts developing this new character, and it's a weird amalgamation of like Mr. Rogers, Pee Wee Herman, and the Crypt Keeper. And
a good description.
Yeah, right. We get introduced to the Firefly Funhouse. Again, that kind of weird combination of worlds there. And this was the moment. At this point now, my daughter is old enough to be watching like kids shows. So she was at that point where like she really loved like the kids TV shows like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Bluey and yeah. And
Bluey.
And the music was
Dad.
I'm laughing because so my son, who just turned 1, he loves Bluey. And you can sit there and whistle the theme song, and at the exact right moment he'll go, Bluey. Like he'll if he sees a TV on, he goes Bluey. He got in trouble at daycare because he smacked one of the teacher's iPads out of her hand because he said Bluey and she said no. So he smacked it out of her hand.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
it's beginning.
So the Firefly Funhouse theme would come on, and Mia thought it was a kid show. So, like, it would start up, and she would run in from her bedroom or wherever she was at to watch because she thought the Firefly Funhouse was a kid show. And they did it so well where it was so dark, but, like, for her watching it, she didn't get it. She thought it was a kid show that was part of wrestling. Until The Fiend came out. Then she loved it even more. What did y'all think?
And the exact opposite happened at my house.
Same.
Yeah.
All right, so let's tell so the first time The Fiend came out, right? We're watching it, my daughter's there, and he does the catchphrase was yowie wowie, right? So that episode where Bray Wyatt's like, you want to know my secret? Which I'm thinking like Pee Wee Herman, I don't want to know that secret. And so he, the screen goes red. He turns around with the Fiend mask on and he does the yowie wowie. Like my daughter loved it. Like she absolutely loved it. So let's tell the stories. Lathan, your son.
Oh man, when that boy heard that, it was all he had to hear was the Firefly Funhouse intro, and he just knew, like, I'm not gonna be here. I don't want to be in no part of this. Like, I've never seen a 4-year-old run so quickly through a house. Like, it's like whenever Bray came on, regardless if it was the Fiend or the Firefly Funhouse, like I had to either mute the TV or go back and watch that segment at a different time and just miss out because it was an absolute hell no. He's not watching this. I'm not watching this. Like nobody gets to watch this. But like at the time we were living in a 2-story duplex, and while I always worried about him climbing up and down the stairs at such a young age, he cleared those whole stairs real quick as soon as the Firefly Funhouse came on. And then when Yowie I would go around behind him. Sometimes in the dark, go yowie wowie, and I mean, he may have pissed his pants a couple times.
That's so good, George.
Oh my goodness!
Your name redacted.
It was the same thing. As soon as like just the initial note will come on, boom, off the couch, running around the corner. And at first it was like not watching it, not listening to it at all. Like it was, but he would wait, and just like till the signal was like, all right, all's good. And then eventually it went to like, I'm not watching it, but I'll listen to it. So he's like around the house, around the corner like this, and then he goes, and like, and it slowly started being a little bit more and more like, okay, let me check it out. Let me check it out. He started peeking around the corner and looking at a little bit of stuff, see what like he was comfortable with, and then hide back. And it was mostly when the animals started coming out, like the puppets. That's what he didn't want to see those at all. Like he'll look at Bray Wyatt for a little bit, and then like hide for the animals. And then he went full in. I don't know. Like eventually, he was like, all right, now I'm watching it, but from a distance. But yeah, and then he was all in, and then that was like the best part for him.
You know, there's one ironic crazy part that happened a few years ago. And I don't know who got it for him, but for his birthday, he got Bray Wyatt. Like, it was a twin pack. It was Bray Wyatt, and then it was no, it wasn't a twin pack. It was one person got Bray Wyatt, the other one got like the super exclusive edition Fiend that he had looked at on Amazon, and it had like the removable head, it had the lantern, it had Huskus as one of those puppets. And I remember he was excited to get it, and he was excited to open it up. And then I reminded him, all of about 2 years prior to actually holding this figure, you used to scream like a little kid, like a little girl, and run up the stairs about this doll, or like the figure, or the wrestler himself. And it was ironic that you're holding the action figure, super excited. And then fast forward about 30 minutes later, he comes into the room, he hands me the little Huskus toy it came with. He's like, can you hide this from me? Because this is scary.
So during COVID, my daughter turned 2, and one of the things I got her was the Fiend Funko, and she would carry that thing around with her everywhere. Like we ended up going down to my parents for something on a Saturday, and I have a picture of her sitting on my parents' couch watching I want to say watching Bluey or something, and she's just holding it watching Bluey. So that's too funny. She loved it. But kind of getting into that, so the Fiend character debuts, and I really think that we kind of got screwed over on a lot of what could have been for the Fiend because COVID hit. And I think one of the best quotes in the documentary was Bruce Pritchard talking about WrestleMania and going into WrestleMania against John Cena, and he's like, you know, the Fiend isn't going to do well in an empty arena, so they had to figure out something different, which leads us to the Firefly Funhouse.
No, there's more to that name, isn't it? What, you're talking about the match?
Yeah, it's just the Firefly Funhouse.
Oh, I thought it was maybe. I thought there was like a whole thing to it.
No, we get the Firefly Funhouse match, which
that's what it was. Match. You were missing match.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my mistake. Everybody, my mistake. My mistake. Put in the comments, please let me know How much?
Yeah. What do you think this is? Too hard, too fast? Where we don't check facts? No, man, we're checking facts on this. Lathan's ready to pull it up.
A ducking, a ducking wrestling podcast where we don't check match. we get the Firefly Funhouse match. Then honestly was like that and the Undertaker versus AJ Styles. That was like the only good thing about that whole WrestleMania. Like that was it. You know, I call it COVID mania, which doesn't sound as cool out loud as it did in my head, but
I'll give you A for effort.
Yeah. But I thought so the Firefly Funhouse match was so good. Like how cinematic it was, but it still told a great story. I mean, the idea and showing John Cena and Bray Wyatt wearing NWO attire and coming out, and Cena with the NWO championship. Because I don't know if y'all remember it around that time. Like there were all these rumors going around, like, oh, Cena's gonna turn heel and reform the NWO. Cena, oh, he's gonna pull a Hogan and reform it. And I guess this was kind of their little chuckle at everybody.
Dude, the whole match was layered so well with so many different like little Easter eggs from like the entirety of both their careers in some way, shape, or form. Like, and it worked out really well. I hate to say it this way, but thank God for COVID for that match, because you wouldn't have got like. I don't want to imagine what the match possibly could have been in front of a live crowd. But what we got was absolute perfection. You can put that together in front of a live crowd if you wanted to.
No.
Yeah.
It was super perfect, but was this the very first? You know how they had other matches like the Money in the Bank where they run into the whole building, Undertaker versus AJ Styles, and then what else? There was another one that was weird. I don't know, but was this the first one that was made into like movie like style, and then the other ones tried it?
Well, because this was night one's main event on WrestleMania.
Yeah, but they did this one and Undertaker and Styles. It was the same WrestleMania. So they did both of those as like because they had was it a buried alive match?
Yeah, but in like in a cemetery or like
and that was the first time where you and it was one of the reasons I love this song now. Now That We're Dead by Metallica, because you get Styles in the cemetery and he's like, "Come on, dead man, come on, let's go." And then you hear like the motorcycle revving up, and then you got the shot of him going down the road with Metallica playing, and it's almost like a mix. You get the American Badass plus the dead man gimmick in that match.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those were the two cinematic that they did, and then that was in March or April. That was April, and then I think June was when they did Money in the Bank, and they did it all kind of same style.
Yeah, okay. Because I know the Undertaker one was also almost flawless. But yeah, the Firefly Funhouse was. I mean, it was just badass.
Yeah. And if anybody listening or watching, if you've played WWE 2K24, maybe you're kind of like me in this. I didn't get it, but there's a version of Bray Wyatt wearing the workout gear, like the tank top with the sweatband and the red, white, and blue America pants, right? And in the game, it says Bray Wyatt SNME. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, Saturday night main event. Right, but I'm like, I don't ever remember him on an episode of that doing that. This was the WrestleMania where one of the cut scenes is him and John Cena working out, and behind them is the Saturday night's main event banner. And I was like, that's where it's from.
Yeah, the
okay.
promo part of the match.
Right, when it's almost
Yeah.
like they're playing Macho Man and Hogan in that, like the Mega Power style. But yeah, so for all of y'all who didn't catch that, you're welcome. I just solved a mystery for you.
I was definitely wondering though.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Well, so the next evolution, evolution of storytelling that we get brings in Alexa Bliss into the Firefly Funhouse. I don't know about y'all. I wasn't a fan of her time. It almost felt like she was kind of wedged in there just to get her something to do. I don't know. I didn't enjoy her time in the Funhouse.
They could have done more with her time in the Funhouse, but it was weird. Like creatively, I felt like it was supposed to go a different transitional way than what it ended up playing out on TV as. And I think that's when, like, it's sort of like what Triple H was saying somewhere in the documentary is like, okay, there's the way you think about how his character should develop and how it should play out, but then to put them on TV and let them get played out is a whole different thing sometimes. Like, and the two don't correlate with each other. Like, the creativity that you want can't be like produced the way that we thought we could put it together. And so this is one of those things where, like, I think Alexa Bliss was meant to be good, but then it just turned out horrible. Especially at WrestleMania, what was it, 37, when they went back to, like, when they first had another crowd, or was that it? Yeah, with versus Randy Orton after the Inferno match.
Thunderdome one, or
yeah, we'll get to that one here in a minute. So
this all was fun.
I this is one of those cases where I was all in real quick with Alexa Bliss, with this character. Only, I mean, obviously Alexa Bliss was already established, so I already liked her, and so she kind of did give off good freaky vibes. No, but like good, like for that character, like the spooky, like almost unpredictable. But then it got stale. Like I felt like it got stale. She was less unpredictable. Yeah, and I was just like, But
yeah.
see, this is why I don't get attached too quick.
Yeah, I go back to it. It feels like she kind of got wedged in there. She did okay to start, but then real quick, it was like kind of like every week repetitive. And then they did the Alexa's Playground, and yeah, it got weird. And I kind of wasn't digging it. But I think the biggest thing at this time that happened that had the biggest impact, you have the death of John Huber. Luke Harper passes away very unexpectedly, very young, 41 years old. And you can tell in some of the interviews, or the interview with Bray Wyatt, talking about it, just how I think how much it weighed on him that, you know, his essentially his best friend died. I mean, just out of nowhere, very, very quickly, very unexpectedly died. And I think from it almost seems like when that happened, the character of Bray Wyatt took a downward turn. where it wasn't as creative, it wasn't as unpredictable. It became almost another like, oh hey, it's Monday night, here comes the Fiend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Y'all feel that?
Like he kind of just walked through it. He was disconnected.
That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, rightfully so. It's not, he didn't like, there was a time where it felt like he didn't have enough time to fully mourn and get closure. Because, the show's got to go on, right? But at the same time, like, it's one of those that, like, it's not necessarily like the good old boys club. Like, we used to have, perfect example, Owen Hart. The night he died in the ring, the show went on. And when we fast forward now, we think about our mental health a lot differently, and we take care of our mental health a little bit differently than what they did back then. And so, in this case, he needed time to grieve. And for a while there, like when he finally got to go home for a little bit, I think that was really great for him to be able to have that emotional release that he couldn't get by constantly trying to work on the road, because he was just becoming more of an irritant versus being part of the program. Like, there's nothing you can really do with that except let it eat itself away, or let itself have time to fully breathe the way it needs to, and to get to help it, like the proper mourning process out of the system they needed.
I think that goes almost, you almost kind of blame Vince McMahon for that, because Vince tended to find something that was successful, and he would fucking grind that into the ground, man. Like, oh, this is working. Oh, this is good. More.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like the scene in what was the Star Wars, whatever, the middle one of the sequels or whatever, the shitty one of the shitty ones. It's almost like where Kylo Ren is shooting the AT-AT walkers, or shooting what they think is Luke, and he's like, more. Like, I feel like that's Vince whenever something is successful. Like, you got to get it out more. You got to show it more. You got to do it more. And
it's good shit, pal.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that really messed with Bray Wyatt's head, because he didn't have that time to kind of take a step back and grieve losing his friend. It was like, man, that sucks. All right, what are we doing tomorrow night?
I was like, no, I'm going home. This sucks.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last thing that we kind of get with this version of the Fiend is the Thunderdome match against Randy Orton, the Inferno match. Man, yeah. This is what I don't get. You're in the Thunderdome era, where you have the most creative power that you have ever had and will ever have again. You are controlling every moment of what people can see. And you're still going to light this motherfucker on fire and burn him? Like that? Like you couldn't figure out something better? You're like looking at the backstage footage that they're showing with him getting ready and getting in that suit and getting the
he's
fire.
Miserable.
Dude, he is miserable and he's scared.
Yeah.
Like, and I would be too. I mean, knowing it's like, okay, well, we can only cover you up to a certain point, and we're going to light you on fire, and this is what you have to do. Like, why are we doing this when we can, I mean, essentially you can CGI some shit in there or do something. I mean, do something else other than literally burn this man for the story.
Yeah. And what was even worse about the whole situation too is that he still got burned. Like, you did everything you were supposed to do to protect this dude, and somehow you still, like, there was still one flaw that still ended up getting him physically burned in the literal sense. And like, yeah, like, whoever put that together is lucky that they still have a job, because as soon as I got back after I realized I got burned, I'm beating the motherfucker who missed that spot. Because it didn't need to happen. It didn't need to happen.
Shitty.
Absolutely
Not just the match itself, but the way he's having to carry it. And I mean, Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt should be a marquee match. Randy Orton versus The Fiend, marquee match, man. You could do so much more with it than actually setting that man on fire and getting him burned. You could have, and I think that takes the frustration that he already has and just amplifies it. He's already frustrated with stuff. He's already not doing great. And then you put him in this match and then you burn him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't blame him for being kind of pissed off in this era.
Yeah. It's like there's nothing that you're really going to do with him creatively anyways that makes any sense. After he gets burned, like, that's the whole concept of why they bring him back the way they bring him back.
I honestly thought it was going to be like the end, like it was done. Like the whole character, maybe even the whole Bray Wyatt character, and he's going to do something else or just be done. Because it was like, like you're now going to come back, and then you come back. I mean, you have to be burned. You have to look burned.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is...
And remember, this isn't the first misstep in his character at this point, too, because the Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins was like, started the downward turn, and then COVID just kind of helped kind of sprinkle it on faster.
That fucking red Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but George is 100% right on there, because next thing we have is a rematch against Orton, and it's, you know, they're trying to figure out, like, okay, what do we do with the character? Well, how about we not burn the motherfucker to begin with? But now we're here, and they're trying to put him in this new costume and this new attire that just isn't working. And again, you know, y'all watch the documentary, you go see, just, you can tell he's getting pissed off and he's frustrated trying to figure out how to work in the ring. And, you know, he's in there with Jamie Noble trying to figure out, like, well, every time you grab me, it's twisting and I can't see and I can't breathe. And he's just, I mean, he's fucking miserable. To the WWE's credit, they did do a good job getting him back to the Fiend. You know, how, you know, walking through the tunnel, it kind of all burns off and now he's the Fiend again. Great. You did it. You did a good job getting him back to that. But the whole burned Fiend thing, it's too much. Like they went into it.
It didn't need to happen.
No.
Whose call was that? Triple H or McMahon?
No, that's a come on.
That is definitely a Vince and Kenny McMahon call.
Yeah. That's a Vince McMahon, like, no, he needs to be burned and crispy like a marshmallow.
I don't understand what it was supposed to be, the whole payoff to that happening. And they don't really talk about it. Like, they gloss over this aspect of it, but they don't really talk about, like, what was supposed to be the other part of this creatively. Like, where was it supposed to go? If we were allowed to see it play out the way that somebody wanted it to play out, because this didn't make any sense. Yeah. And it was about the time where they started doing more events with people in attendance, like right after COVID, like the limited what's the word I'm looking for? The limited crowds that they had, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it sucked.
And then so it eventually leads to, like we kind of alluded to a couple of minutes ago, where there's a rematch between Orton and the Fiend. And there's the scene where the Fiend is walking through the tunnel. And what I thought, I mean, this was actually kind of a cool thing that they did, was where it kind of chars off and now he's back to the Fiend. And the way Bruce Pritchard did it, or said it in the documentary, was like he was emerging from hell. Like, okay, that's kind of a cool concept. And then you have that big fucking Jack in the Box where he comes out of it, and then him and Orton have a good match. That it was a very good match. And then you have Alexa Bliss and her little stupid ass. Like, she comes up from the Jack in the Box with a crown on, and then she's like pouring black from her head.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Which
That was a lot of confusion.
Yeah, it distracts the Fiend. Fiend takes the RKO. 1, 2, 3, it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, I know George was loving Alexa Bliss there, and I think it's for dirty reasons. I don't think
it was for all the reasons. I was in. I'm telling you, man. I was in with Alexa Bliss in this character. I wanted it to be great.
I think we all wanted it to be great, but it wasn't.
At all.
At the time, it was.
And so I remember that happening, and then that was about as much as I remember of his time as the Fiend until eventually he comes back.
Yep, and we're gonna dive into that. So at this point, we have the Fiend losing to Randy Orton, and then he's gone. Bray Wyatt, in the midst of COVID cuts, him and Bo Dallas get released. And we're going to take one more commercial break, and then we're going to finish out the documentary and dive into the reemergence of Bray Wyatt and what went on from there. So we will be right back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome to Too Hard, Too Fast.
Too hard, too fast.
Too hard, too fast.
Too hard, too fast.
Welcome to Too Hard, Too Fast.
Welcome back. Too hard, too fast. Where we go off the rails, and George has to worry about it. So here we go.
Find Too Hard, Too Fast podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Welcome back, everybody, as we get into the third act of the Bray Wyatt documentary. We have left off with Bray Wyatt unexpectedly getting released from WWE.
Dang, I was shocked. I was like, nobody's safe.
I was thinking more about Lathan eating that banana on camera and choop.
Y'all saw that, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and it's getting cut. Yeah, when Bray, man, when I saw that news come through, like WWE releases Bray Wyatt, like, I think for the first time as a wrestling fan, I was legitimately like pissed off. Like, I remember telling Allison, I'm like, man, I'm fucking done. Like, I'm done with the WWE. Fuck Vince McMahon. Like, I'm 100% done with them, that they would release somebody like that.
you don't expect it from different wrestlers. Like Bo Dallas, okay, I can see that because he's not really a main
You
event.
shut your mouth right now.
Your bow leaving ass.
with your bow-legged ass.
But like but I was like just like, Bray Wyatt was just part of your co-main event for WrestleMania, and then it's just like kind of like, okay, y'all really don't have anything to do with like creatively to do with them right now. So I mean, like, it sucks.
Or unless, what if he asked for his release and it was just not told that way?
No,
Yeah.
I think in the documentary they would have said that he requested his release, and yeah, he didn't. I mean, that was just a cut, and it was the wrong cut. But then again, was it the right cut? Because you give him time to go home, get his head on straight, and then he's ready to come back. But yeah, I was, not just for me being mad and hurt, but like my daughter who oh yeah.
Oh no!
Nobody's safe.
No. That was too hard, too fast.
Oh, that was funny.
Oh.
For those of you who are on audio only, go watch the YouTube video because I am keeping that in. That was too perfect. But yeah, I mean, not just for me being mad, but like as much as my daughter loved him, for him to be like cut where like now she can't watch him anymore.
Yeah.
So it was yeah, it was bad. Y'all got anything else to say about it? Yeah, were y'all's kids happy? It's like, yay, the Fiend is gone.
I don't think it knew.
OJ just didn't care. He's at the action figure. He don't give a shit.
He's on vacation.
Yeah.
He went to college.
He went to live on a farm. Well, so we get a couple of things, and I'm kind of mad that it didn't go anywhere, but we get that Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas talking about how they were filming a pilot about being like paranormal investigators, and now I'm kind of mad that like we don't.
That would have been cool.
That would have been cool as shit. Like I'm kind of. They need to release that. They need to release the pilot and just let us see it.
I think it would have been badass.
Yeah.
Like, just Ghost Hunters on like HGTV or some shit like that.
Yeah. I think it would be cool as shit to see that. We also get kind of a glimpse inside Bray Wyatt's life. You know, he's had a couple of kids with the former ring announcer JoJo, and his kind of art studio, how he opens up to doing artwork and different things, which I thought was cool to see. He kind of had an outlet for, I guess, what would maybe be his frustration with pro wrestling itself, because it almost seems like when they talk about them doing that show about the paranormal, that they're almost to the point where they're like, okay, we're done with wrestling, right? Because Bo Dallas talks about how then they realized that they wanted to do more. You know, so did y'all get that kind of feeling that maybe at that point they were kind of done?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they were more burnt out at the time. It's just work burnout. Like, you know, and the WWE programs for the most part, for most people, they'll all tell you if they work there, like it's kind of it can be stressful, it can be a burnout, especially when like you're trying to fight for doing control things and then like and control your character and you don't have that authority to do that anymore. You have to bend to creative and try to figure it out from there. And so that's what it mainly sounded like, was more burnout. They just needed another outlet to still be the young creative guys that they needed to be, because like at this time they're late 20s, like early 30s, late 20s.
No, they're mid. I mean, they're mid 30s. We're only. I mean, this is only a few years ago.
Oh yeah, sorry, but either way it goes. What I'm trying to say is, they had more imagination and creativity to want to get out there and use it in different lights. But I definitely would like to see this happen. I could see them being on like the A&E like Sunday block hour with like Ghost Hunter Wyatts. Find a way to put it all together.
The Rotundo brothers Ghost Hunter.
Yeah. Just to really stick in the vents.
That's right. What'd you think, George? Would you have been down for that show?
No, yeah, that show would have been awesome. Obviously, just how freaky things can be. When I was thinking about if they were done, or the way you were saying that the way it was said, I kind of thought two brains, like maybe Bo Dallas was trying to do something different, where maybe just Windham kind of just felt, I'm not wanted anymore, so I have to like express in another way or something.
Damn,
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's a really good way to break it down, because you think Bray Wyatt over the years had changed up his character so much, when Bo Dallas really kind of stayed the same but got put in different situations, to go from the Bo leave, you got a Bo leave. And who was it that year in the Royal Rumble that he eliminated and it like shocked was it Sheamus?
Yeah.
And like he eliminated Sheamus in the Royal Rumble and everybody's like, oh, he's ready, he's doing it. And then kind of nothing. And then he was part of the Social Outcasts with Adam Rose, Curtis Axel, and there was another one. There were 4 originally.
Axel Rose, Bo Dallas.
No, Axel Rose is the lead singer from Guns N' Roses.
No, Axel Rose, dickhead.
Axel Rose is the lead singer of Guns N' Roses.
No.
Asshole Rose.
Curtis Axel.
What was Adam Rose? Damn it.
Pete Rose.
Dude, Lathan was going hard on that one. He's like, Axel Rose, dickhead.
Yeah. I apologize. My bad. Oh man. Who was the 4th member?
4, yeah. They started out 4, and no, it was 4 the whole time. Was it Heath Slater?
Yeah, it was Heath Slater. The one-man band.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Coming up big now. But yeah, so he was with them, and then him and Curtis Axel, aka Axel Rose, aka Adam Rose, whatever, Curtis Axel, formed the B team, and they had huge success, but his character never changed, So I think George is right with that. Bray was almost like, well, they just don't want me.
That was a good observation.
Yeah,
for sure.
So we end up with Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas, or Bray Wyatt more to start, deciding that he wanted to reach out. he wanted to come back home. And I love that part in the documentary where they talk about that Bray Wyatt calling back, and it goes from, well, I want to come home. Well, we want you to come home, to like an hour and a half discussion about what we're gonna do. You know,
Yeah.
I love that idea. And we start getting these amazing White Rabbit vignettes. Like, as much as I loved the Wyatt Family and the Firefly Funhouse, dude, these took it to another level. Like, as the mystery and the what is it, and I think all of us kind of knew or hoped what it was, but we're now like getting these for the first time. We're getting more of like the social interactive vignettes. You know, it's not just like a short clip and then it's over. It's like Triple H welcoming people to Friday Night SmackDown, and there's a QR code on his mic, and you got to be quick to try to catch it and see where it takes you. And I mean, these things were absolute genius. How
Gold.
forward thinking Bray Wyatt was in these, because I mean, you start taking social media to the next level with these.
Yeah, no, I was I had to admit I was behind the times when it came to looking at the I remember the vignettes, and I remember like the QR codes and stuff, but I would never look into them even further. But like, I mean, for the time, it was innovative for sure. Like, applying the new technologies that are out there. So yeah, you're right on the money with that one. But it did leave you wondering, and it did leave you always guessing what was on the other side. And sort of like Bruce Pritchard kind of said a little bit later in the documentary, like, you were speculating and then you finally got it. And that's what made it even more amazing, is because it was like you wanted it and we teased you enough about it, but like, okay, now here's a full presentation. And not to go jump too far ahead on your art, but like, it was well put together for sure. And the way that they had pieced it together for the documentary show it being produced the way it's supposed to be done, and it was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's forward thinking in a different time, for sure.
Very much so, which was kind of the Bray Wyatt calling card, was everything was so ahead of its time that stuff that they were doing, 4 or 5 years ago is now everybody's doing it on TV, where, hey, scan this QR code to, buy this t-shirt, or scan this QR code for an entry into this DraftKings, whatever, It was very, very forward thinking.
I'm not a fan of QR codes.
Just in general, or
Just in general, man.
why?
I don't know. I don't like to take I feel like it's a waste of time, even though it's probably not.
So
I have to open up my camera so it can take me to our website, and then it doesn't work sometimes.
Well, if you get an iPhone, it would probably work.
Oh man.
Now, the best thing about the QR codes is, like, whenever I go and I download like a TV channel app onto my Apple TV, and then it's like, oh, go to the website and enter this code, or scan the QR code. You scan it, you hit accept, and it's like, thank you for logging in, and it's done. Like, I don't have to remember shit.
I tried to do it once. I'm like, you know what? This is just easy for me to go to a website. This is stupid.
You know what? I know now. I just realized why George doesn't like QR codes, because for the last week they've been advertising a CM Punk toy on WWE shows, and there's a QR code. There's a QR code to pre-order it. Is that what it is, George?
No, but it is now. Speak to CM Punk.
Add that to the list.
CM the why I hate CM Punk list. George is like, QR codes? You just made the list. Oh
Too
man.
fucking hilarious.
So we are now coming to the end of the White Rabbit vignettes, and the last one has the rabbit going across on like an 8-bit video game. Pitfall is what it's like. It's like the old Atari game Pitfall. And he goes and he lands on the X. X collapses, fire shoots up, and it reveals the date of the following day, which was going to be Extreme Rules. And I don't know about y'all, but I remember this very, very vividly. We had the cage match with Matt Riddle. God, now I don't remember. I just lost who he faced in the main event, but Matt Riddle walking up the ramp. I think he wins some weird way, walking up the ramp, and he's doing the, little dance that he does. The ref is there holding up his hand. They flash up the copyright card for the show, and then the camera goes to the full view of the crowd, and the lights go out, and the crowd goes apeshit. And you've got Michael Cole sitting there going, did we just lose power? Like, playing it off so well.
Yeah.
And then the music hits is it Code Orange, Lathan, who does Bray's theme song?
Yeah. Code Orange's new version of his intro.
Yeah, you have that music hit, the piano start playing, and then you have the door. The door opens with just this bright ass light shining through. And
but before that, it was they started singing He's Got the Whole World in His Hands.
That's
and then
right.
They showed different was it Ramblin' Rabbit and Sister Abby and
Mercy Buzzard.
Yeah, Mercy Buzzard.
Yeah, and then good. The Fiend, which I thought was cool in the documentary, where they are like, yeah, we'll just get some random extra to play the Fiend, and Bray Wyatt's like, no, he wants Jason, I can't remember his last name now, Jason, who designed pretty much everything from Bray Wyatt's collection to the Bludgeon Brothers, as the Fiend in the front row. And so, yeah, they're kind of going around. You've got the fireflies in the house and going back and forth. And then out comes Bray Wyatt in the Uncle Howdy mask with the lantern. Do it. Yes.
Oh, dang it.
Oh, man.
We match.
Oh, that's adorable.
Oh, man.
And he, just the timing that Bray Wyatt had. He stands there for a minute with the lantern, and he does the mask where it's very pronounced, his movements, and he goes and he takes it off, and the crowd goes again another level of ape shit. And he kind of leans down to the camera and he goes, I'm here. And then black.
Fade to black, and that's the show.
And then the lights come back on, and everybody's like, all right, I guess I'm going home. I mean, that's got to be one of the best returns ever.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's I like the way that WWE keeps you guessing sometimes. Like now, it's like you see the copyright card come up at the bottom to end the show. And we all know what that means. It's done. That's a wrap. And then you have those moments of
Yeah,
returns.
you can
And it's
change
like,
it now. That's what it means. And
yeah,
I've been
exactly.
caught by it, or yeah.
But now it's sort of like
Ever
you set
since
the
that show,
theatrical.
from now on, I wait until like the card for Law and Order SVU comes up because I'm like, nope, it's not over. It's not over. Okay, SVU starting, change it.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's the equivalent of having like the post credit scene to a movie, but for wrestling. Like, oh, here's another 30 seconds of oh my god. Yeah. And it just leaves you wanting more. Same thing when George pissed his pants when
Don't do
CM
it.
Punk
Don't
came
do
back
it.
out.
I was hoping you were gonna bring it up, dude. I think I even texted y'all. It's like that was a great pay per view, and even better, no CM Punk.
And I missed it. I missed it because I think I was in Kingsville for like a funeral or something. So I wasn't even watching it. There was something because I wasn't watching it live.
Oh yeah.
And so like I get like George texts and he just goes, great pay-per-view. And then like a couple of minutes later, he just get a text and goes, never.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. And it's like, never mind.
And then here I come, CM Punk, CM Punk.
Oh, but George,
It was beautiful.
what'd you think about? Tell us, kind of, talk us through, man. What were you feeling with this one?
The return. I mean, you pretty much described it. No, there's nothing I wanted to think if I hated something because I know that entrance was cool, but then they started doing the house thing and the door opening, but it was more cheaply done to where you can see like over the house and you can see like Bray Wyatt getting ready, or no, or just me.
I never noticed it, but I mean
Oh,
no, it may have been.
it didn't look as well done, I guess, again and again. But if I gotta find something to critique on that entrance, that would be the only thing.
For all the people watching and listening, don't take George too seriously because he eats corn the long way. I saw a sign in the crowd tonight that said that, so it made me laugh. It was like Grayson Waller eats corn the long way.
Oh man, I'm glad I like that they're bringing back more posters in the crowds and stuff now too. Noticing that recently.
Yeah, George, when y'all go see Raw, you need a sign that just has a QR code that takes everybody to our link or our link tree page.
Yeah, that would be funny.
That would be because everybody.
You think they'll let me through?
Probably
or
not.
maybe take it down.
I would think probably not because everybody would be thinking, "Oh, this is something with Uncle Howdy. This is something that's big." And then we'd have like 500,000 people scanning the QR code.
I mean, it still leads to somewhere, at least down one rabbit hole.
Dude, I would pay to have that QR code made, and if you took it and they took it away, I'd be like, all right. But it would be worth the effort.
Hell yeah.
So after Bray Wyatt returns at Extreme Rules, I don't remember the time frame between that and when he cuts that promo on SmackDown where it's him. And I loved it, and if I'm remembering correctly, like I kind of got teary-eyed listening to him and seeing his, how much he appreciated the fans and everything, and about how much, the fans helped him through kind of a rough time. And I'm trying to think of the analogy where it's like a raw nerve exposed. It's there in its purest form, and it again, it kind of harkens back to a lot of the stuff with wrestling now. I watch through the eyes of not only myself, but like my kid watching stuff for the first time and experiencing this stuff. And to see her watching Bray Wyatt talk and get emotional and thank everybody, like, you can call me a bitch. It made my tears squeak out a little water.
I remember watching the promo. I didn't watch the promo live. I watched it after on YouTube it was like a couple days after, because I don't think I was watching SmackDown currently at the time because I was working. But man, it was super heartfelt. Like it's rare to see, I guess, characters break that fourth wall and come out very genuine. Like it's like, unless it's part of a storyline, then they're giving you a piece of themselves. But that was really cool. Like, you don't really see that a lot of times with wrestlers. Like, the character is a character, but this was not necessarily Bray Wyatt. This was Windham Rotunda talking to the crowd, with the assumption that you're having Bray Wyatt talk for him, and it's not the case. So it was cool to see it from that perspective, but it was cool to actually still tie it back into eventually a storyline that was coming along with it too. Like, you are getting a genuine part of them, but like it was like it was real, but at the same time you knew it was still story building and world building around what was about to come. And enjoying what we got at the coming off of that. So for sure.
I agree with the kind of breaking that fourth wall. I thought, like it was like, for me, it felt more like a switch. He comes out as Bray Wyatt, and then he's going into like the promo, and then it almost to me felt like a little switch, and then it's like boom, I'm normal person now. I'm talking, and then it went back into like I'm back in character. Like it took like some kind of weird dip into I'm normal person, and then back to the character. So like it felt very sincere,
I think that's the
like
best
a human talking to humans.
You could have left it at sincere, and then it wouldn't have gotten.
It got weird again.
No, I think that's the best word to really kind of describe Bray Wyatt as a character overall, was sincere. Like, this was, him and showing his appreciation, but he was still building towards something. It wasn't a, hey, thank you all for everything, and then he goes away and comes back the next week to start a story. He was, it was that like raw nerve exposed, but it was gonna lead somewhere. So yeah, it was beautifully done, which starts building the feud with LA Knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
It starts building towards that feud with LA Knight, which I really enjoyed. The introduction of Uncle Howdy, which I'm trying to remember. So the three of us went to the Royal Rumble. God, was that last year, 2023? Yeah. Yeah. So we all went to the Royal Rumble in San Antonio. There it is. And that was part of the story. They had what was the match called that they did? It was the
Sponsored by
Something in the
Mountain
dark.
Dew Glow in the Dark match.
Mountain Dew pitch black match,
Yeah.
which I actually bought a plaque and I have it over there on the wall with a piece of the ring, I think. And I mean, Lathan and I, not realizing that they were going to have the match on at that moment, we thought it was going to be a cool down time. We went and bought beer and got back for like the very end of the match, which was cool to see in the arena, the black lights and everything. I wish we had watched it.
That was real cool.
Sitting in our chairs.
I thought it was gonna be a dumb match at the beginning. Like I was like, this is ridiculous, and then it was just pretty badass to see the colors, and the old match overall too was good. Like they just did a great.
Give us so George, y'all sat there and y'all watched the match because Lathan and I needed beer at that point from trying to get in and everything. So kind of give us a rundown of the match itself, because I mean everybody listening, watching on YouTube and Rumble, probably watched the match as a premium live event. I have not gone back and watched the match, which I don't know why I haven't. I really should. I may do it after this recording is done, but kind of give us a rundown, dude, like their entrances, like kind of give us a little rundown.
I'm not gonna be able to do a good job on that. I don't remember it all. I remember like the big, like the cool stuff and the colors, and then the big ending.
Okay, so let me ask you the ending. What was the ending? What was the ending of the match?
It was Uncle Howdy jumping on LA Knight through the.
It was supposed to be. I remember watching it back, and they had miscued. I guess Uncle Howdy miscued the jump.
Yeah.
But luckily, they hit it from the right. So they hit it from the right camera angle on TV, where you could kind of like guess what's going on inside the pit of everything. But like, yeah, I remember somebody was saying like you could tell that he completely missed.
Way to go, Bo Dallas.
Yeah. Is that uncle always fucking shit up on the random holidays?
I'm that uncle. So yeah, I think I couldn't remember what the time frame was with the introduction of Uncle Howdy.
You know what? Honestly, I think now thinking about it, I went in thinking this was gonna be the restroom break match.
Well, so did we. That's why we went up and we went to go buy beer, was because I don't remember knowing that was the match coming up next, because I'm a huge Bray Wyatt fan, and honestly, I like to think that if I had known that was the match coming on, I wouldn't have gotten up to go buy beer.
But also the match in itself was so short. I remember that. Like I remember us sitting there, and I was all about like a solid 5 minutes. Like at 6 at best.
Yeah, because we weren't gone that long.
Yeah, you were. It felt for like forever.
Just because you missed us.
I bet I told you to bring your whole family with you, George.
No, I was thinking these pinches vatos are gonna come back right in the middle of the match too. The whole time I'm waiting on the road so I can be ready to stand up. And then at one point I look over and I see Layton at the end of the row going.
Tired of stepping over people. I'm thinking it's supposed to be in these small seats anyways.
I remember that later on. Like Lathan he's like, I'm gonna go get a beer. And it was something, because I would have gone with you or asked you to bring me.
I wasn't gonna take a piss. I had to go use the restroom.
And George and I are sitting there watching the match, and I think it was the Rumble. And like it's been like 20 minutes, and we're like, oh shit, where's Lathan? And so we both just kind of lean over to look and see if like he's standing at the end of the row or he's doing something. No, he's down in the very last seat and he just looks over. Like,
yeah, guys.
all right.
Yeah. It was too cramped. Like it was too cramped up, and I kept on having to move. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit right here on this last chair. Nobody's claiming it. I'm gonna sit here for a couple of these entrants before I go back to my seat. No.
Yeah, honestly, that's the worst part. Like, so for us, the three of us, we're not, contrary to popular belief, we're not small men. Lathan is a hefty,
and hefty and handsome.
So he's hefty. Lathan's a big dude. George is a big dude. I'm a big dude. I mean, I'm 6'4" and
Hey, you choose your words wisely.
We're all hefty and sexy, but sorry, it is we're all married.
Yeah.
So yeah, going and sitting in those seats, the three of us next to each other, we're all like this, like sitting there, trying to like squish and like share armrest and link arms and put our hands on each other's thighs. It's a good time. But you know what? I guarantee you though, if somebody had come up and said, "Hey, this is Bray Wyatt's last pay-per-view match," like I don't know. I mean, I would have thought they were insane. Like, oh, man, he's 36 years old. Of course, this isn't his last pay-per-view match. You're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah.
But that's where we get, man. So we have the Royal Rumble match against LA Knight, which Bray Wyatt wins. It goes into a match in February that turns out to be Bray Wyatt's last match. It's at a house show, and I think it's another pitch black match. And then so we're gonna start getting into some really controversial little bit stuff. So Bray Wyatt catches COVID. According to LA Knight was talking about that during the match, I guess Bray Wyatt's knee is kind of locked up or stiff, or there's something going on with it. In the documentary, they don't really go any further into the knee issue, but apparently it was something that nobody really knew, because Bo Dallas talks about that he goes in on like a Monday for Raw, and they're like, "Oh, Windham's not here," and I don't remember specifically if that was where they start talking that he had COVID, or if it was a knee issue and he was home and caught COVID. Do y'all remember kind of the time?
I think what it was is that like he went home. From what I remember, when it first happened, it was like he went home because he had COVID. Is what they made it out to be. The leg issue wasn't necessarily brought up at all, but it makes sense given the way he died. Because like it's typically, if you're having circulation issues in your leg, then you're more predisposed to having something else down the line, like that revolves around the heart, cardiovascular issues.
Yeah.
So he went home for one thing. And I think what they were trying to illustrate was that like he went home for COVID, but then exacerbated some kind of cardiovascular issue had already, or he didn't know about, and became an issue at the same time. And that's what kind of prolonged his him coming back in the first place, or the timetable for him to come back, because like they've had wrestlers get COVID and like 2 to 3 weeks later they're back. But this one's a little bit different after you pass protocol. But I think that's what they weren't like. We weren't told that originally. Most of the information we got was through dirt sheets, anyways. Like the internet wrestling community is quick to speculate about what's going on, but never knowing what's going on until you get told, right? So
Yeah, which I find weird. And this was kind of in my notes that it's weird that they start talking about like he has heart issues. I mean, at this point, he's been a professional wrestler for God, I mean, over 10 years, 15 years. And like, I mean, what they don't really go into detail on what the heart issue was, but to me, I mean, it was weird that he suddenly had this heart issue. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that got worse because of COVID. And with COVID, all three of us have had COVID. I've had it at least 2 times that I know of, but it's so weird how it affects people so differently. And I don't want to get too much into it because then we'll end up getting banned on YouTube or something for saying the wrong word about it. But it affected people so much differently. So so Bray Wyatt gets COVID, and from what his fiance JoJo in the show is talking about is like he was on the road to recovery. He was
yeah.
able to work out. He got cleared to work out. And but he would have kind of relapses with, being tired. He'd get worn out, maybe pushing himself too hard. Yeah, any comments or thoughts on that? I feel like I'm bogarting this part of the show.
No, I mean, like this is what it is. Like it's not necessarily it's the effect, but also the recovery from it. Like it's like you're only limited to do so much until your body allows you to do more. I remember they were talking about at this point he had a pacemaker like a vest on.
Yeah.
To go to sleep with like a defibrillator vest to make sure in case he had a situation while he was asleep, it could shock him back awake. Which in itself was something crazy I didn't expect to hear, but that's interesting to say the least. That it like got to even to that point, and just like you said, it does affect different people different ways. Thank goodness I didn't like neither one of us had to go through that, or none of us had to go through that, and I hate that for him. But it sounded hopeful that he was taking a turn for the good.
Yeah, and
that's what I took away.
It did seem like it was like, or yeah, that he was gonna be all right. Because at first it was like, oh, heart issues, and it's like, and everybody knows, like, or kind of how you mentioned earlier, most wrestlers by 35, 36 are getting in the old days were more like at the tail end of their career.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of felt like that. I was like, is it? And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, he's doing fine and he'll be all right. I was like, oh, he's gonna be back, easy.
Well, the thing that kind of got me watching this part was, they're talking about, okay, he's cleared to work out, he's cleared for this and that, and he's getting better, he's doing good, but he's got to wear this vest when he sleeps to make sure his heart doesn't stop. Like, I feel like it was kind of contradicting itself. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say, hey, I'm getting better, I'm feeling better, I'm doing better, I'm getting back, I'm cleared to work out, but I got to wear this vest when I go to sleep, so if my heart stops, it'll shock it back into rhythm. Like, I feel like
it's like like a heart CPAP machine.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like those two things really don't work together. It was very eerie watching this part leading up to what we all know is coming. And I told when my wife and kids got home, and I'm watching the end of the documentary again, taking notes on it, and I had to take a minute and step away because I know what's coming. I know what is coming up, and I'm like, okay, I got to mentally prepare myself for the moment and the story being told about you know, August 24th, 2023. His fiance Jojo goes in to wake him up from his nap, and he's gone.
Yeah. It was the way they told the story through the documentary. It was, I guess, in a sense, nuanced. Like realistically, we got like when we look back at some older documentaries of people, like they don't necessarily just come out and give a full like a play by play detail, right? Like kind of like we went in, we were there, and like it's more we talk about it historically later on. Like we're removed about at this point 7 to 9 months away from it, so like it's more told in a live action type of way from the people that lived it. Obviously, between JoJo's mom, like JoJo's mom calling Wyndham's mom, and then Wyndham's mom calling Bo Dallas, and then like you all played out and stuff, and it was just obviously like it was crazy to hear it from that perspective. And then you see the pain that's still there. It's still kind of resonating with everybody. So yeah, like it took me back for a minute, and like yeah, I mean, like you can't help but to get emotional, right? Like there's a part of it that like is kind of relatable in a sense because we are like this is our age range, this is our group, like you know, and it's just happened out of nowhere. So, but they did produce it correctly to tell the story, which I appreciated too. I'm sure if Wyndham was here, he'd probably say that was perfectly done, right? To tell his story, the way they told his story is perfect. So yeah,
Well, it also added like a sense of suspense because like I felt like I was there watching her like freak out over not being able to wake him up.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was like it was like the house was silent when we were watching it, but it just got more silent.
Yeah, I think it hits on a lot of different levels. Like I said, I was finishing it up. I had it on my iPad while I was watching SmackDown, and my daughter had come in here, and again, she's now, I mean, 4 years later from her first introduction to Bray Wyatt the Fiend, she's still like she still misses the watching the Fiend. I mean, I'll play 2K24 and she'll sit there and watch it, and she's like, "Daddy, are you Yowie Wowie?" I'm like, "Yeah, baby, I am." And she's like, "I miss him." And watching the documentary, she asked me, she had to go. My wife was calling her for something, and she went to go up to the living room, and she stopped right here in the doorway, and she goes, Daddy, can you pause it? I said, no, baby, I got to finish this so I can kind of refresh my memory for doing the podcast. And she goes, okay, can we watch it later? I go, yeah, baby, I'll watch it. I'll watch the whole thing with you. And, you know, I think it hits on a lot of different levels, especially for us. Not only is it hitting on a level of us as being in that same age range, you know, you're seeing the reaction from his parents, which our parents are still alive. So, you know, you see that. You see that as a reaction of us as parents. If this was one of our children, you see this from the reaction of the spouse. I mean, if we're all spouses, if we were in the position JoJo was, we see it from that angle. You know, so it really hits on a lot of different levels. I mean, it did for me anyway, because I'm seeing it from so many points of view of such a young guy who you take away who he was, right? You remove all of that. At the end of the day, he's a father, he's a husband, he's a son, he's a brother. And I think that's where it hit closer to me, where, I mean, I'm watching it again for the second time and I'm sitting there tearing up, listening to the family and everybody talk about that moment. It hit on so many different levels.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then I think it was more or less when they started talking to Taylor, where it got even like more emotional. Like, but yeah, I mean, like it was the way it all was set up and the way it was situated, man. It just sucked across the board. You know, the way they got told in the hospital, like they got, at least they had the uh privacy to be able to mourn the loss without having to be in a bigger setting. Like, you know, they ushered them into a room and they were told what had happened about Wyndham's death. So they were at least given that respect and courtesy, right? Um, but you know, it's just and like what sucked most about it is, like, you know, you realize he's leaving behind children, like, and two of it, like all, for what it's worth, all four of them, you know, have some kind of part of Wyndham in them. But like to see, like, you know, two of them have only experienced their dad for like 3 to 4 years, right? Like barely a blip on the radar. And so like it's just sad to be like all you know about your dad is what you'll see in videos of him and memories from other people's perspective, and you won't have that opportunity to make your own memories. So I mean, outside of the ones that you have, um, and that, you know, like your parents will make sure that you try to hold on to. So that to me, that kind of like made it suck even more in that parental bubble, you know. But yeah, I mean, we can go on talking about this all night, but it was just it's tragic in itself, but you know, luckily he had a really good, strong family bond, and it sounds like those kids are going to be well taken care of. WWE's taking care of them, of JoJo and the family's expenses to a certain extent. Um, and yeah, in WWE, like for the most part, the whole wrestling community on a professional level is taking care of them, and they're well off, so they have a good transition of mourning to understanding a new normal. So that was good to take away from the documentary too.
I don't know. You guys are very heartfelt with the description of it. I was more just like, I don't know how to explain it. Like I was well, like I said earlier, like I was there, like watching. Like it just, I guess the way I'm thinking more of the way they just portrayed it, um, without like being too disrespectful, and also, I guess, and also because it's so recent for them to recount it just with a big old camera in their face. Um, so I was kind of just like trying to think what they may be thinking in that moment, and then just kind of listen to the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we come to the end. There's a little bit more in the documentary. We get to see something kind of, which I thought was kind of weird in the moment, but now I'm glad we have it. The funeral of Windham Rotunda, and seeing all the people there, listening to Bo Dallas give the eulogy, which I mean honestly, it made me cry again. Like, the love he had for his brother was something that, unless you have a sibling who you're that close to, you just you'll never understand. Beautiful service. I like how they did his urn was like flames. I thought that was cool. And then they even did like the smoke effect and everything behind the urn, which was great. WWE did their tribute to him. Uh, I mean, just beautiful tributes all around. Even AEW paying respect to him and everything, which he never wrestled there, but I think there was enough love from everybody to at least show that respect to him. So um the last thing second to last thing that we get the showing of the Fiend character that was gonna be debuting, the new Fiend, which very much inspired by Hellraiser. If y'all have ever seen the original, the Cenobites, and like very much so. But what I thought was cool, and I actually, watching it on my iPad, I paused it because I wanted Allison to see it because she liked Bray Wyatt, my wife. Um, and I wanted her to see all of the little Easter eggs that were in Bray Wyatt's, the Fiend's costume, right?
Mhm.
Like, and even looking back, I'm like, damn, I didn't even catch that with the original lantern that looked like the Eater of Worlds head.
Mm.
Oh yeah, the Roman numerals.
Yeah. Like, okay, like the dude, like you look at the attire that was gonna be the Fiend's new attire, and you see stripes down the pants, right? You don't think about it. But then you zoom in on it, and it's his kids' names.
Yeah.
The stitching on the mouth, the just every little detail in there was super cool. What'd y'all think about that what should have been the new Fiend costume?
Yeah. The devil was definitely in the details when it came to the way they were putting it together. Like it's always one of those things that he always has subtle things inside of his gear or inside of like his workarounds in the ring or like um in his promo. So it was like it's Bray Wyatt being Bray Wyatt, being creative and truly super awesome. Like it looked like it could have been pulled off and worked out really well. But that was just like at that point, it was just like a big love story to his life. This is like the things that make him, that motivate him to be better, creatively. Kids, his wife, and the creativity that he can explore through the Fiend. So yeah.
Now, I mean, thinking back on it and thinking about that stuff, tell me if I'm wrong on this one, but that design for the Fiend almost seemed like what could have been the Bray Wyatt Fiend swan song. Like, it almost seems like that's kind of a tribute attire you wear at the end of your career, right?
So you're
Possibly.
thinking he was done, like retiring?
I don't know. I mean, we'll never know. I mean, maybe or maybe not. Maybe that would have just been something for him. But you think how long he had already been going that I mean, would it have surprised me if that was the swan song for his full-time in-ring career? No. It kind of timing kind of made sense, but looking back now, I don't know.
I mean, it could have been. There's at this point, there's a lot of could have been, like where it could have went, where it could have ended up becoming. But yeah, I mean, it could have been one of those where like I know you've been starting to work on side projects as far as like horror films and stuff too, and just like maybe taking a break and becoming like Rob Zombie-esque when it comes to it. Just in a cool, more Windham Rotunda way. So I mean, there's definitely ways they could have been played out. But unfortunately, we'll never know.
Yeah, I wonder what direction that character would have been. I never thought like it until right now, until you mentioned it, that it would have been like his last it before. I just thought he was just gonna evolve into a whole new level of the Fiend or Bray Wyatt or whatever he was gonna do with it.
Yeah, I think we as wrestling fans lost something that we'll never know how big of a impact it had on us. So, all right, guys, let's finish this up. Let's give our final thoughts on Bray Wyatt and let's call it. Lathan, give me your final thoughts, man.
It was a perfect eulogy for the fans. The way that this was well put together, the way this was, the production team, the way they put this together. Shout out mainly to Taylor. I know he has his fingerprints written all over this. But coming from the respect of how he would expect his brother to put something together like this for himself, right? Like it was and I say that to say, like when I say the eulogy, like as fans, we didn't get to go to the funeral to have the last rites and to say our goodbyes to Windham in the respective way. I mean, we shouldn't because it's not our family, but it was a good way for us to still hold, or to at least get the closure we wanted as a fan, and sort of like our eulogy and our funeral to Bray Wyatt, to let us say our own final goodbyes respectfully. At least that's how I took it. It was good. It brought back a lot of memories that are like kind of conjure up over his career. And you look at it so on a regular basis that you forget sometimes how big the career span has been. So yeah, so it was fun going back down memory lane and being nostalgic for a minute. And the documentary I love leaves you with a little bit of hope, and excitement for things that may be coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get a little teaser at the end of the documentary, and we've got some vignettes going on now, so we'll see where it goes. But George, final thoughts, man.
Like Lathan said, like the perfect closure to the story, the character, the person. Because they were able to touch up on all those things, like who he was as a person, who he was, what characters he brought in. So, and then the longevity of how he started to where was still evolving, because he never ended. But no, the story came to a close.
Yep. Yeah, I fully agree with y'all. I think being able to see the story from beginning to end, getting that little bit of where his mind was the whole time. As fans, we kind of just follow along with the end result of what ideas are. We don't get the in between. We don't get the beginning of the idea. And seeing kind of where stuff evolved from, it really meant a lot. And I think he's somebody that style of person, that style of creativeness, I don't know if we'll ever see again. I mean, he's a once in a lifetime creative person and an in-ring person, from what we got introduced to him as that Husky Harris, to where we ended up as a bona fide Hall of Famer. I mean, in just a lot shorter of a time than a lot of people get. So I think we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna end it. Normally we get all hyped up at the end and fired up, but I think we're good with everything. So we've got what, George? What?
Nothing. We're gonna end on a high note.
I
Do
get it. I got that joke. I get that reference. So next month, we are going to cover Bash at the Beach 2000. So we'll see y'all in May. And what we're going to do right now, normally I kind of fade out with the music and everything, but we're going to leave it with this: a quote by Windham Rotunda that kind of brings it home for all wrestling fans. Wrestling is not a love story. It's much more. It's hope. A spectacle no one can deny. An excuse to be a kid again. And nothing matters except the moment we're in.